Hi, we're WISER Systems. I'm Seth Holler, CEO,
I'm Logan Maxwell, wearer of many hats.
and I'm excited to have a conversation today about IT and how WISER works with the end customer to implement their system. So, what is your experience?
Oh, it's been great. I love all IT staffs.
Needless to say, some people have a love-hate relationship with IT.
Yeah, I would say so. And if you're from IT, especially corporate IT, and you're watching this video, we respect and appreciate your position. And it is your job to say no.
Absolutely.
On my network? My network? I don't think so. No, no, no.
I totally understand. News all the time about how corporate entities are being held hostage by hackers for their data,
Yeah,
costing millions or billions of dollars.
yes.
So, how does Wiser? Well, let me rephrase this. When Wiser goes in
Mm,
and offers a solution, there are three stakeholders for the most part involved.
sure.
What are those three?
So there is going to be the IT side, right?
IT,
There's the facility side,
facilities.
and then there's the actual operations side.
Okay. And so oftentimes to get approval, IT can be a sticking point. Is that right?
Sure. Well, especially in larger corporate installations, you have to play by the same rule book because they have to think about how this is going to scale, right?
Right.
So this has to be able to be implemented across many different sites in the configurations that they have already set up, right? Everything is data-based now, right? So everything is based off of electronic data. And so they need to make sure that it can get to where it needs to go and that you can share it with all these sites. It makes total sense.
Yes, but to get started, it can often be a pain.
Yeah.
And sometimes just a showstopper, especially when you want to do something like a proof of concept or
Yeah.
a pilot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the background. So, how does Wiser go into an install typically? And then if there are issues or concerns that maybe IT won't approve a normal install, what other permutations are allowed
Right.
or permitted?
Yeah. So for better or for worse, and a lot of times for better, with Wiser, you have options.
Lots of
It's
options.
lots of options, and it can be a little overwhelming at first. Hence, kind of why we're trying to make this video. But essentially, you can kind of configure it to work in and or around your IT staff if you wish to do so. And as Seth mentioned, that can be particularly important with proof of concepts when you don't want to sink full weight into a full install, which, by the way, are still pretty affordable. But you just want to do a small section of your facility. So what can you do, right? Well, I guess we'll start with, I think, do you want to start from cloud and work back, or do you want to start from like on-prem laptop and go forward?
We can start on-prem.
Okay.
We have the image open here anyway.
Okay. So at the simplest, most basic level of Wiser, and I'm going to go even more basic than the diagram you put.
Oh,
Yes. So even at and this is what we do on the sales side of the house. So I'm speaking from sales reps is we'll go to the facility and we'll actually plug one of these antennas into a laptop via just USB. No Ethernet cable, no switch, nothing. I'm just plugging it into my laptop, and I set a few up in the facility. I run it entirely wirelessly, and I run it off a laptop.
oh, I should get the
That
magnetic attachment thing. Hold on.
that is by far the simplest way to run this. Now you're limited in scope. Obviously, you wouldn't want to put these on batteries all through your plant, but for a proof of concept, it's a great way to get started. And you can put relatively large batteries on these antennas. Oh, yes, perfect. You can put these antennas on, like, these are just, standard 5-volt batteries, but they're going to last for a long time.
Oh yeah, like
22,000,
5, 6 days.
yeah, 22,400 milliamps. So this will last you about a week, right? And so you can run an antenna off of this and just slap these up and get a proof of concept going in your facility just on a laptop, right? Completely isolated, completely on premise, and just use a computational device, keep it off your network entirely. We have done whole pilots that
So
way.
you could take this, slap it on. Oh, here.
Yeah.
Have a number of these, have them run for a week, collect your data, prove out the system before you're going to the next step.
right? And that all it requires is a laptop, not on your network, just a laptop, and then some of these devices, right? And it'll collect it. You just set up a small area of your facility and do that. There's limitations, of course, so we don't like to do full installs that way. But once you've done this, you can be completely sure that you're going to get the right data. It's going to be accurate for what you need, right? And you can collect it over time at your facility without involving IT at all.
Yes, completely isolated, power, data, all within the WISER solution. No complicated wiring, no Ethernet
There's
cable,
no wiring at all.
and data within you know the corporate infrastructure is not touched at all.
Yeah, to be clear, we do this as a demo on site as the sales staff, right?
Yeah.
So it would be the same, right? You're not involving IT in those decisions. Not saying that IT we don't respect and appreciate your position. Just you wouldn't be involved in this particular decision. So
Okay.
that is the very most granular, simple, finite on-premise option.
Okay. Option one.
Well, yeah. So option one is like just a laptop and batteries and run this thing. Okay. So now moving to a more traditional setup for manufacturing with WISER is instead of using the USB, we will actually start to use Ethernet cables. And so WISER can still be just run off a laptop if you wish, but usually now we're going to have these antennas with an in and an out with Ethernet cabling, daisy chain topology. You can see that highlighted here. We have antennas. They're all going to be plugged into a switch. This is I'm pointing to the screen, but I don't know where it'll be. It's somewhere here. So you're plugging these chains into a switch. So one switch is about 9 antennas, 8 or 9, give or take, in the topology. So one switch will cover pretty much your whole facility typically. Yeah. So you're using a PoE power off the switch. It's powering the whole chain of antennas, right? And then that can either be plugged directly into a laptop running WISER or more traditionally, virtual local area network isolated internally, and you have and then you have a VM running WISER. This would be with IT, but this again is going to be 100% on premise, right?
Right.
And so for the IT folks watching, wringing their hands, you can stop sweating a little bit because this is going to be 100% entirely on premise. There's no callbacks, no internet connection. In fact, even the license for the software itself is just a simple file. And then we would literally email that to you and you sub it in and swap it in. So there's no connection back.
We have lots of experience. Many sites are running on premise. Not a problem. We've gone through the IT paperwork to approve a system on premise.
Every time. Every time we have to do
and this can be done. And sometimes it's easier or harder than others. Understood.
Yep. So, but this is the most traditional way to set up WISER when you have locked down IT, and this can be in aerospace a lot of times, or defense tier one related contractors, that sort of thing. This becomes very important. Just keep it all completely isolated. VLAN, VM, running on-prem over Ethernet wire, but again, through your switch, right? So that's kind of the next level. And then, is there anything else you wanted to cover on on-prem?
I think it just might be worth mentioning some ad hoc stories about how some people really, or some facilities or operations have really tried to just do it just silently without IT involvement as well. And sometimes it's successful and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, I think it's better for the scalability of the project in general to get IT involved earlier on. Again, we've run on premise all the time, and that usually makes most of these security issues not applicable. So getting them involved earlier on in the process is better. We have run an entire corporate pilot completely isolated from IT on a borrowed laptop that's plugged in only to power and has all of its network ports removed. And we have run it physically that way before. We have also brought in switches, run it all on Ethernet on little $40 switches that we bought, and had to run all that again with a laptop plugged in.
Okay, so that one, none of it is connected to the IT infrastructure. The Ethernet switches are completely separate and just on WISER.
Yes, it's literally just an Ethernet switch plugged into a wall, set to standard 192.168.
And sometimes there's corporate policy as well, where there might be a chosen RTLS provider where we've run into, they're not open to accepting other corporate or other RTL solutions, even though the proven corporate approved provider actually doesn't solve the problem.
Right.
And so people have just done their own pilots or demonstrations outside of the corporate umbrella to demonstrate otherwise.
And they've had to, and that's not only from the IT side, like also from the financial side, having to keep the purchase orders underneath certain amounts in order to just get this in, because this, as we've discussed in other videos that we made literally today, is technologically differentiated than standard RFID, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, that sort of
Right.
thing. So the corporate contracts you already have in place for your organization are probably on systems that maybe are not as engineered appropriately for reflective metal environments for scalability. And so we have found in those core industries like manufacturing, we're really one of the only things that actually works well. And so they have to get it in somehow. And a lot of times, just to get it started, to prove that it works, right? Either we have to come with a briefcase and set it up for a day, or they have to set it up for a day.
Right.
And that's where this comes in handy.
And part of it is just the misunderstanding that, just because you've chosen an RTLS, corporate accepted RTLS provider, or the corporation has, not all solutions are the same. And most certainly a Bluetooth, even if it's corporate approved, tracking system is very different than an ultra wideband and can't do certain things that ultra wideband solutions can do. And that's why some operations have privately tried to run their own solution without corporate IT involvement initially, just to do the proof of concept.
It's to show, hey, we can get dots on a map, look at the fidelity, we can know where all of our work orders are within a meter,
Okay.
have to be able to show that.
Okay, on-premise. Okay, let's go a little more creatively. So there's also the cloud solution that I'm showing here. This requires, in some ways, well, let me take a step back.
Doesn't have to.
If you are doing on-premise and your IT is managing it, that is IT resources that have to be actively managing the solution.
Correct.
It is a good solution. It has a high uptime rate, but there are occasionally times when it does need some degree of maintenance. And if you don't allocate the amount of resources towards it, you will have a less than optimal system. Thankfully, we make this aware to the customer early on. So for the most part, they do allocate, but there are solutions outside of having your own IT manage the tracking solution.
And I think that's why the push to cloud is been adopted in a lot of these sorts of things, right?
IT is busy. They got 10,000 different things. They don't want to learn another software, right?
Yep. Yeah, they don't want to necessarily have to manage it, right, in terms of the uptime, right? So, for instance, a reboot or right, like our system is built to just go ahead and be right back up. But if you switch your ports around, it's on premise, man. We won't know that. You have to manage all of that.
Right? When it's on premise, the primary way we work with customers is through screen share.
Yeah.
And sending some files back and forth, which can be slow, which involves setting up meetings. So it's not ideal in some cases.
Yeah.
So for the cloud, IT does not have to manage it nearly as much. If data gets moved from the facility to a cloud-hosted service, and WISER takes care of the management and guarantees uptime and reliability.
Yeah, and for those that aren't aware of what cloud even means, it is basically like on site, you still have the hardware, it's still generating data.
Right.
That data is going to come back to us over the internet. We are then going to calculate it, manage it, and then send it back to you so you have dots on a map. But what that means is we're going to have the ability to change and update things for you right away, and we're going to be the ones managing it. So it takes a lot of those IT resources away and just gives them to us instead.
Now, there's different ways you can send data to the WISER hosted service. You can have some sort of edge device with some sort of allowances for a port to send data through, and you have to work with IT in order to allow that.
So what that functionally means is IT is going to open up a tunnel through the internet to us.
Right.
So we're still going to be using your IT resources to open the tunnel and keep that. And then we are going to grab the data out of that on our side.
Right. And so the requirements are a little more rigorous when you do cloud-based hosting. And for industries like aerospace, it tends to be a harder sell. Is
Yeah,
that right?
well, certainly. And also just having to protect that tunnel and open it is much more problematic with all the red tape that they have to cut. So when
Right.
you can just run it on premise, okay, fine, we'll manage it, we'll run it on premise. We don't have to keep worrying about that tunnel, right?
Right.
So for other IT shops, it may be much more preferable. Hey, we've got our hands full. We'll open up a tunnel and manage it. You guys host it. You guys manage everything else. And that's more on the cloud side.
Right. Now, let's be a little more creative. Uh, Getting data to the cloud can be done like what we just said. IT opens up some sort of, what do you call it, whole port.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side is, maybe you have a second means for sending that data either through a second internet connection that's completely separate than the normal corporate IT internet connection, or you use some sort of cellular connection. So now your data connection is made from using Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile modems. And this is interesting in the sense that you can create a wired solution here. Let me see if I can draw a big circle.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
now it doesn't touch your ITs. That is not pretty, but that's okay. It doesn't touch your IT's network, but it goes through, this cellular modem and then comes to the WISER hosted cloud. And this is interesting in the sense that sometimes, in this case, it doesn't touch IT, so IT doesn't worry about it at all because it's not using any of the facility's data at all.
No, it's essentially we have the hardware is plugged in to a device with an antenna that's shooting it over the cell networks back to us. So there's no tunnel to maintain
Right.
and there's nothing that IT has to do, right? So this is what we would call like a no touch. Essentially, we're dropping this in turnkey. We're bringing in all the hardware, it's generating everything. And then as long as you have a computer or a phone, you can log in and see the dots moving around on your map. IT is not involved usually at all in these cases. And so it can be a really nice way to get in a full stack enterprise solution into a facility all wired up, but not having to have IT manage anything about it. Right.
And there's an additional permutation that you can provide. So the methods for reaching a cloud-based server is cellular or punching a hole through the network with IT. But suppose you don't necessarily want a WISER hosted service in the cloud, but instead you still want it on premise. So it's like taking this guy and putting it back within this network. But you still have, for example, the cellular connection. So what that allows is we would have access to this hosted service that is actually on-prem, but we could still manage it.
Yes. So essentially, you're taking, think of it like a laptop. You're the computational to figuring out where the coordinates are is sitting there in your facility. But that little antenna allows us and our engineers to occasionally poke in and update stuff for you, right?
Yes. So now you kind of get the best of both worlds. You do have it on premise, your data remains on premise, but we have the ability to go in and manage it.
Yes.
Reducing the total number of IT resources on your side, as well as having a separation from your traditional network, which increases security and safety on your side. Does that make sense?
It does to me, but I've done
I
it a few
know it's like
times.
there's too many green lines here.
I've done it a few times, so I know. But suffice to say, there are options. If you're reaching out and you're watching these videos, it probably means you're interested at least enough to know, all 7 people that'll watch this. You're in the process of looking at these systems and you're trying to figure out the answers to some of these questions. Depending on your relationship with IT and the historical process of approving things with IT, you have options. You can do this entirely on premise in a little cell without involving IT at all. You can do it on premise with involving IT. You can do it cloud with involving IT and doing a tunnel, or you can do it cloud without involving IT, no touch, Or you can also do it back again on premise with the cell where we have access.
And no touch.
And again, no IT there as well. So depending on your relationship, depending on what typically gets approved and what's easier, know that there are options. In particular, for a proof of concept, we can do that in a briefcase in an hour or two,
right,
just by running this off a laptop. So don't let that stop you.
So well said. So well said. And the big takeaway is we've had experience with almost all of these situations and combinations and permutations.
Boy, we have.
We have interfaced with the IT on multiple levels. So, if you have a unique scenario you want to share with us that is also different from this, or have questions on these scenarios, please reach out to us.
Yeah. Yep. Contact us, email, contact us form, and phone as well, or any of the social media channels.
Absolutely.
We will get back to you. So yeah, I know this is probably a long one and a lot of staring.
I really enjoy this one. I don't know why.
Yeah, but there's just, for better or for worse, you have a lot of options.
Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care.